A special call meeting tonight in regards to our communication infrastructure. 911 Director Brad Molinax had approached us and kind of talked a little bit about an investment in our radio infrastructure. And he's here again tonight, so I'll give him an opportunity to come up and speak in just a moment. I just wanted to kind of give everybody a background of where we started and where we are today. His original proposal was a $2.3 million investment over a 7-year period. This is a financing deal through Motorola. There were going to be $346,000 payments in those 7 years, which would have been the life of the warranty. And then he also added that 911 would be willing to give a $300,000 contribution, and that we would not have to pay for the first year. So we would have to pay, we have 12 months before our first payment, and that they would give $300,000 to that first payment, which would leave us with the $46,000 payment in our first year of payments, but then taking on that $346,000 payment thereon after. Since our last meeting, I had talked to Brad Molinax some about if there's a way that maybe we could slowly integrate this radio system instead of doing it all at one time. And we kind of sat down and looked at maybe some other options, and I'll let him go into that in a little bit more detail. But it was, I think, around $1.3 million, $1.2 million. And those would be $158,000 payments. It'd be $158,117. And he also thought that 911 board might also contribute $79,000 of that, and we also contribute $79,000 of that also. So we kind of splitting the bill there, and that's a little bit more doable than the $346,000 payments that would definitely put us in a financial struggle. So, and I think this might be a 10-year. Is that right, Brad? A 10-year plan instead of a 7. So I'll go ahead and let Brad kind of come up and get us all up to speed on what those different plans entail, and take it from here.
Thank you, Mayor Adcock. I know we've had numerous discussions, and we have come up with another option. I don't love this option, but it is an option that will get us by for a period of time. I'd much rather see us, do all this replacement at one time and not piecemeal it together. I think that'd be the better solution. However, I think the biggest concern that we have is the infrastructure of our radio system. And without spending $1.9 million, that's what it's been estimated to spend, our cheapest option and probably our best option is to join the TACN system. And I've got Director Jeff Gray with the TACN. He is the director of the TACN network for the state of Tennessee. He's come up tonight. He's here to answer any questions regarding maintenance and all those type things as well. So I'm going to let him speak here shortly. But I did want to kind of outline this other agreement that we've kind of come up with. And I want to first disclose that that Motorola does not certify this. They're not standing behind that it's going to work. Okay, so this is something that we're doing on our own. The APX 8500 radios will be the mobile radios that's going in the cars. So our option is to utilize the APX 8500s in the cars and purchase the vehicle repeaters. Those are both coming from Motorola. Okay, they're called Future Comms. They have an option to where they can be used on an analog system. So what we've done is we've tested it. We took the existing portable radios like Patrick's got, like Chief Green's got. We've programmed up the analog frequency. It talks to the car, and then it goes out to the TACN network on the digital system. I have witnessed it working. It does work very well, honestly. But again, Motorola says, hey, this has not been certified. This is not supposed to be used this way, but it is working. So That option, so basically what we would be doing is we would still be purchasing a total of, let me make sure I've got my numbers right here. So there would be 88 APX 8500s, and there would be a total of 57 Futurecom vehicle repeaters. We would not be purchasing any portable radios. So this would be up to the agencies or the county or the city or whoever to eventually buy some portable radios, because we need to be moving towards a different option other than these cheaper radios that we've got right now. It is cheaper. I understand it's 1.2 versus 2.3. Normally I would not be comfortable with saying, hey, a radio is going to last 10 years. If it was a portable, I probably definitely would not be saying that. But mobile radios usually last pretty well. You know, we don't have to replace a whole lot of mobile radios based on they're not getting the abuse. They're not getting dropped in the mud. They're not getting dropped in the water, that kind of thing. So we can still utilize the cheap radios if that's what the county decides to do. And now I have not talked to my 911 board about this deal that Mayor Adcock called me with earlier today, but I think it's doable. I can't speak on behalf of them. That's something I would have to call a special call meeting and get our board approval for. But basically, it would be a $158,000 payment, and you know, I'm okay with it if the board's okay with it with us. Instead of coughing up a $300,000 contribution to you, you know, let it run through 911. That's something also that I'll let County Mayor Matt Adcock speak about. But I think it was affecting the bond rating or something if you do something as far as debt service if it goes through the county. So I'm okay with that. But I do want to share with you, Director Gray and Quinn and Sean put together some maps. I want to kind of, if you'll flip to the last page of those maps, this is with a 30-watt mobile radio off the VHF site on Short Mountain. The blue or purple that you're seeing is our coverage area. So essentially that's about probably 90 to 95% coverage with a mobile radio. And they usually do this very conservatively. So my testing has been, I have not found a portable that will not work going through the vehicle repeater anywhere in the county. And we've done multiple tests, spent multiple hours on the road going around and road testing this. So it's proven effective. It will work. So essentially with the vehicle repeater, what you're getting is the portables that they have now, and I've got one back there. I don't know if anybody's got one sitting. I should have brought it up here with me. But the portable radios they've got now, there's probably a $400 or $500 portable, will talk to the mobile radio in the car, and you'll get this kind of coverage. I think it would be, we're being irresponsible if we don't do something pretty soon, because the current state and condition of our radio system is at risk here. And, you know, if we can't page ambulances and we can't page fire and we can't dispatch our sheriff's department, we're setting ourselves up to reliability. I'm just going to tell you, it's that simple. And a matter of fact, you know, it's just, I think it was yesterday, we paged EMS, and they called up there and they said, our tones didn't go off in the building. They didn't get a page for an ambulance inside the ambulance service. So to me, that is a red flag, guys, that we've got to do something. And, you know, if we can't afford to do this $2.3 million deal, which I do think is the best solution, I think it's the right solution and it's the best solution, we certainly need to do something with this other deal, and that'll buy us some time to where we can maybe apply for some grant money. Chief Green, fire department's very good at writing AFG grants, as you guys know, so we could utilize that as a resource. I'm hearing there may be some more violent crimes money for the sheriff's department available. You know, Putnam County I think they got about a $3 million grant for radios. So they were able to execute and get that in place. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm here to answer any questions that you guys may have. And then I would like for Director Gray to come up and kind of talk to you about TAC and what it is, where it's come from, where it's going. because this is a very, very, very good radio system that the state of Tennessee is pouring a ton of money into to expand all across the state. So I'm confident in it. You know, it's going to take our risk down significantly with not having to maintain our current radio system any longer. But I think it's a great deal. I think either one of the deals is a great deal, but you know, especially since they're providing the service to us. Anybody have any questions for me?
Brad,
Yes, sir.
what about the deal we talked about Wednesday, where we would incorporate into the new criminal justice center, a 911 center, a new center, and then 911 contribute more to the radios?
And that's a discussion that I'm certainly open to. That's not something I can make a decision on, of course. You've got some members of the board on the commission here, but I'm certainly open to that conversation. And we've got some time to discuss that. But, you know, I think, first of all, we need to get something going on this. And if that's the will of the 911 board and the county to incorporate us into the Justice Center and get us a new building, I think it would be totally workable to offset the cost of that. I don't have a problem with that if the board.
But you said that's something that you're going to have eventually anyway.
It is. Our current building is in a poor state of repair, like most of the county buildings are. Roof leaks. Mayor Adcock's helped us with that. We've had sewage backups. We've had problems where we can't flush the commode on the addressing side. So there is a lot of issues with the building. Most of you guys remember it when it was the old Sportsman's Restaurant and laundromat before that. So it is very old and it does need to be replaced. Outside of that, we're at full capacity right now. It was designed at the time for 3 dispatch positions, and that's currently what we've got. We don't have the ability to expand anymore in our current setting. So it would have to have some renovations at least to expand. County's growing in population and houses. So I think that's certainly something that should be considered. Commissioner Green?
Now, on the outskirts, out in the county, way out in the county, is there a sufficient delay between radio to car? You know, I know anytime you go one direction to go another, there's gonna be a delay. Is it sufficient, or is it sufficient enough where somebody's life ain't gonna be?
I don't think so. I have not seen that, Greg, with my testing. Of course, you do see, you know, a little bit of a delay. We've done some testing. I'd say probably half a second maybe, or maybe a second difference in the transmission. Works pretty well, and I'll be happy to demo it for you. I've got one of the cheaper radios over there, and they're monitoring and dispatch, so we can test it out.
Anybody got any more questions for Brad?
What would be if we went with a cheaper route and say the budget committee started buying 20 radios a year, well, how would that affect them? I mean, would they still run off analog, or could they go straight to digital?
They could go straight to digital. So it would actually be a seamless process in that regard, Jeff. That's actually a very good question. So, you know, let's say, for example, Donnie Green over here got a grant for 20 radios, but he's got 80 firefighters. So we could go ahead and put the 20 radios that he's got on the digital network, and then the others could still use the analog. And he's a poor example, because I'll tell you why. As part of this deal, this last deal that we've been talking to Motorola about, the fire department has some radios they got on the Assistance to Firefighters grant program 8 years ago. Donnie, is that about right?
2013.
Okay, so they're about 10 years old. So they're not new either. They're very old. But Motorola has found a solution where we can actually upgrade those radios to the P25 network and utilize them on the digital system now, and that is included in this deal. That's something else that we actually just put that together in the last couple of days. We had to find out if they were upgradable or not, but they actually are upgradable. But now they're going to stop supporting those 2026, Quinn, is that what you told me? That'll be the end of life on them. So we've got about a 2-year period on those radios before we'd have to before we need to do something on them.
You all have, go ahead.
Yeah, I got one more question. What's the distance that a officer out of the car uses radio and the radio will still pick it up?
So that's a pretty good question, and it's going to depend on a lot of different factors, Tony. One thing, if you're inside a building, of course, that's going to cut it down some. Usually speaking, on a talk around type channel, which is what we call simplex, you know, I would say probably 1,000, 2,000 yards is going to be really good, but you know, it should be further than that. I will tell you this, I was in I tested this exact same scenario in the schools. I parked my vehicle at the very end of the parking lot, went to the back portion of the vocational school at the high school, and I was talking through the vehicle repeater, no problem. So, nothing that I could say just definite it's going to last for a mile or 2 miles or whatever, but I think it would probably be reasonable to assume they're not going to have a problem. Good questions. Very good questions.
Anybody else have anything for Brad? You know, he mentioned this a little bit while he was up there about the financing part of it. I had spoken with our financial advisor, Steve Bates, and he let me know that we could not use capital projects or any other fund except our debt service if we were to go into a lease payment. So he said a lease still is recognized as debt, so it would have to go through your debt service. So it could not come out of capital projects or any other fund other than that. And I had asked Brad, did he think that maybe 911 could take on the debt and we just fund it as a contribution to 911 in our budget, like we have their salaries. And obviously that would be up to the 911 board, but I think he would be willing to do that.
And that has been done in other counties. Recently, White County 911 and White County government done a similar type thing. They started contributing capital to them for radio upgrades and that kind of thing. So it is working in other districts, and I think it's fine to do it that way. I have no problem, introducing that to my board as a recommendation. I would say that we would need to, we'd need to formalize that in our interlocal agreement. We currently have an interlocal agreement with the county to fund 3 dispatch positions. So I think we would need to formalize that, put that in a contract where we would have some protection.
Right.
Because, if county government changes, we don't want to end up owning 200 radios because we only have 14 people that work there.
So was this last total 1.3 or 1.2? What was
It's
it?
1.2. Let me get my right paperwork right here, Sabrina, and I'll answer that for you. I had to throw things together at the last minute. 1.215 and some change. It was not, am I right, Quinn?
And that's over 10 years?
Yes, that would be over 10 years. And now, like I said, I would not, if this was portable radios, I would not recommend this, but with mobiles, it's completely doable. We don't have a lot of problems with mobile radios.
What's the interest rate on 10 years versus 6?
So it's 5.10 is what I'm seeing here, and on the 7-year deal, it was 5.07. And, if we wanted to pay this off early, it's not a problem to do that, from what I understand from Sean. Is that correct, Sean?
Payments just have to be on like regularly scheduled dates.
So if we wanted to pay it off early, you'd have to pay it off early at when the payment was due. So like if it was due next January and DeKalb County suddenly won the lottery, we could go in next January and just pay the whole balance off. Is that correct?
That's right. There's no early termination fees like that. So I've had a few customers do that out of counties.
So how do we get by with not adding that to the debt service?
That's what I was just explaining. So 911 would actually go into the agreement with Motorola. So they would actually it'd be a contract between DeKalb 911 and Motorola. And in this deal that we were talking about, the 911 would contribute 79,000 of that, and then the county would contribute 79,000. But we would do it in just a contribution to 911, so it wouldn't be on our books and in our debt service. It wouldn't be coming out of our debt service fund. It would be coming out of our general fund as a contribution, just like we do his salaries, his employees.
But you know, if I was 911, I wouldn't do that, because my next commission might come by and say.
Well, that's
"We're
what he
not
was
gonna do
talking
that."
about, the agreement. You have to have a
Yeah. The state-
MOU.
Yeah, we have to have
and-
we have an interlocal agreement with the county, the city, and the town of Alexandria. So that has protected us for years and salaries and, you know, capital expenses and that kind of thing. So the state
Right.
requires us, the Tennessee Emergency Communications Board requires us to have an interlocal agreement with any government that we do business with.
That protects him from us preventing that funding from getting to
Right.
him and him be stuck with the bill.
It's kind of like, I guess you could explain it kind of like a maintenance of effort,
Yeah.
basically, is what it's similar to.
I got one more question.
Yes,
Is
sir.
911 just gonna contribute one time
That
for
was
the
my.
No,
10
that was-
years?
No, it would be an annual
Yeah.
payment.
Annual.
That's what I would be recommended to the board.
Are there a timeline on this, like January 19th or
There
something?
absolutely is a timeline,
Because
so,
if the 911's got to have a special call meeting to approve this, then what's the
Yes.
timeline on it?
so we need to have a letter of intent sent to Motorola by February the 19th, saying that we're going to execute this, because there's, the whole thing expires on March 6th. So we've got to have the paperwork submitted and everything done, and it takes a little bit of time and effort and work to get these agreements and contracts put in place, probably a couple of weeks. So I think by February the 19th, we've got to have all decisions made. Would you guys agree? Is it reasonable to think we could get it done in a couple of weeks?
The biggest thing is the lease paperwork, obviously, there's just multiple signatures, right? So you've got different folks from the county would sign it, show you the example of that, right? That typically is the part that takes the longest, if there's questions on it, and obviously something to, right, moving forward in either option, we can send you what's a sample lease contract, so your county legal folks can take care of that, if there's any questions, get that all knocked out, so when it comes time to do the sign, everybody's comfortable with terms and conditions.
And we actually would not have to depreciate this equipment because it's actually a lease. So it's actually termed as a lease, so we won't even have to capitalize and depreciate this at 911 as our equipment, because technically it's not. You know, it's not even our equipment. But it is legal to do this. In Putnam County, for years, Putnam County 911 has supplied all EMS, fire, rescue with their radios. And I don't know how in the world they were able, well, I do know how they were able to do that, because all their employees are county employees. So their salaries come from the county, but they did supply all the radios to the county. So it is legal to do that.
So in a 10-year plan or a lease option, I mean, there's gonna be other things that's needed.
There is. I mean, even if you execute this deal at
This is
At
not
1.2.
fixing it.
1.2, it's buying you some time, basically is what it's doing. It does solve the problem with the antiquated infrastructure technology that's on Short Mountain. It does solve the problem with that infrastructure problem that we have at Snows Hill and Jefferson. So it solves that problem. At the very least, they're going to have a mobile radio that's going to work, because the mobile radio is going to be brand new in their car, in their fire truck. And honestly, that's what really matters. But having that portable in their hand, especially for the sheriff's department and EMS, when they're inside a house on a domestic is of paramount importance. So we don't need to lose focus of that. You know, there needs to be some planning and budgeting, and I'm just shooting it out there straight to you. You know, this is the way I do business. There needs to be some planning and some budgeting in place on the county level to start replacing these radios for the sheriff's department, for EMS, and for fire. Because, you know, Donnie's over here with 10-year-old radios right now. He got them in 2013.
It buys us some time
All
to
for
apply for grants, too.
And he got
The
them-
grants, the
yeah.
grant
And he got them
opportunity will
off
be
the
here.
grant. He absolutely
And
did.
that was part of me and Brad's conversation.
Yep.
was, you know, we know that this smaller deal would get us by and would help us apply for grants because it shows that we took the initial step and that we've invested something into this system, and we would be more likely to be granted the grants when we apply for them. So, but it's something that we can't just stop, you know, go halfway in, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. We've got to still do our due diligence of applying for grants and slowly upgrading this system to what it's most ideal to be. So,
Yeah, it's going to take a commitment from everybody involved. You know, I think this is a team effort. It takes a commitment from the county. It takes a commitment from our sheriff. It takes a commitment from our EMS director and our fire chief and our rescue squad director to say, okay, you know, we can't settle for this type of equipment anymore. We've got to start applying for some grants and going out and asking for help to try to get this stuff done. You know, there's dollars out there. I do know Alexandria was successful on a violent crimes grant to get their radios funded, so they're fixing to make a purchase, so we're going to get them transitioned over. Smithville Fire has, City of Smithville has executed on their part to replace their radio, so we're starting to see some buy-in here, but we've all got to work together to do this, and that's the reason why, you know, like I said, I can't speak for my board. I don't know what they will say to this, but I think DeKalb 911 wants this to work. They want us, our responders, to be safe, and we want to be able to dispatch the calls out to people and get them help when they need it. So I don't feel like that our board would probably deny that request based on you guys showing good faith and effort into trying to make it happen.
I have another question, sorry. So thinking through for saying that this is the plan, if this was the plan we were getting, does the county, can we think of any lines that, you know, that we could put money toward it? Or maybe 911 also toward it to reduce the 10 years. We're gonna need supply, we're gonna need things within 10 years. I mean, and we're gonna, and I've sat through enough budget meetings the last few years that we don't have, when you start committing 79,000 each year, that's going to default back, well, we've got to wait 10 years to do this. We seem to wait a long time to move forward in our county. So is there any way we could put some or little money from the 911 plus the county toward that to reduce that 1.3 to get to the solutions a little bit faster? I know we don't have that accessibility to that much money, but when you buy stuff and you walk in and buy a car, you pay a down payment on it pretty heavily, and your interest rate starts dropping, or your payments start dropping, or your years start dropping. I know I don't even know if that's even on the table. I'm just thinking as a 10 years to some people is not long. 10 years to a county that is already behind in so many things is huge.
And it may be prudent to address your question there, Sabrina. You know, you can think about this a couple different ways. One way is, you know, we're financing radios. Mm-hmm. You could also say, well, we're applying $80,000 a year to the replacement of radios. So in 10 years, you know, rather than just saying, okay, we can take this $80,000 off the books now, why not just leave the $80,000 commitment in there from now on? And then that way we're not having to come back and have one of these difficult conversations in 10 years, and I probably won't be here in 10 years, but we won't be having to have this conversation. There's money budgeted, there's money allocated to start replacing those radios as they go bad. I can do an asset tracking on them and say, okay, this radio looks like it's been through the Spanish-American War. This one over here looks really good. So let's replace this one this year. But we've got money there allocated to do that. That's the way I would like to think of this, instead of just a financing of radios. It is an investment in our communication system that is this long term. You know, you have radios, you got this many responders, we've got to take care of it. It's just something that has to be maintained. Did that?
That did, and as I say, I'm not trying to say to get to the 10 years and being done to support it. I was more to the point of getting to 5 years so we can get to another communication project.
Right.
That's where I'm at, because I just know our technology is moving so fast. It's moving faster than we can keep up with.
Yep.
And so that's where I'm at on that.
And if the county wanted to, you know, if they wanted to put some type of, if you do have some reserve funds that you want to apply to this, you know, we had already discussed doing a $300,000 initial investment on this. So, you know, you start applying 300,000 from the county and 300,000 from 911, then all of a sudden you've got a 1.2 deal down to 600,000.
Yeah.
So then we could start looking at lowering payments. And quite honestly and frankly, I would rather, from 911's bookkeeping perspective, because I'm the one that does it, I would much rather just pay for it on the front end and be done with it. You know, let's pay the 600,000 or whatever it is and not finance it at all. You know, I don't know if the county's in the position to do that, but
So if we incorporated that 911 center into the criminal justice center, that would free up some money for 911 to put into it.
it would. Suddenly we don't have, you know, phone bills. Suddenly we don't have, you know, electric bills and water bills and that kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, it'd have a huge impact, for sure.
What's your footprint now, where you're currently at, your square footage?
We're about 2,100 square feet. Half of that is addressing, so we probably got about 1,400 to 1,500 square feet in dispatch. The equipment room is way too small. AT&T and the state 911 system has added equipment out the wazoo since over the last 15 years since we've been up there. So it's time for an improvement up there, and we've got another problem. Every time it rains, it floods the back equipment room, which is not really a place you want flooded. So rain comes in the back, falls down on the door. I don't know who designed this building, but the building was actually built below the ground level. The door opens and you've got to step up to get outside. So it's a very poor design, but yes, we've outgrown it. It is outgrown.
So the way we're talking about building a criminal justice center, it's not gonna add that much cost to it to go ahead and put that in it.
How much is not that much? I mean, it's gonna cost quite a bit.
Yeah, when you're talking
I would say
about,
goes
you're gonna
from
spend
Peter to
41
pay
million,
Paul.
you're gonna spend 41 million, you're gonna spend 42 million.
Well, the difference is.
And you
it's
spread
like
that over
his
15 years,
building-
what difference does it make?
His building don't have to be concrete and steel and all that other, so it'd be cheaper for the county to build him a whole new building, you know, wood frame and drywall, than it would be to probably build on whatever room, concrete and steel. And how bad are we off that we can't figure out to spend $79,000 to save some lives? And
So, is the proposal that we build a 911 center in the Justice Center and then them pay for the radios, all of the radios? Would that be the 2.3?
I don't know if he can afford to do that.
Right, that was gonna be my next question. Does 911 have the money
Well,
to even do that before you even talk about it?
That would be a study we'd probably have to.
Yeah.
That's not something I'm prepared to talk about.
That's
here.
that's a big leap.
You know, I seen Larry at a meeting this week at the local emergency planning meeting, and he brought that up, and I was like, well, you know, sure, I mean, I'm open to that discussion, but I can't make that decision. I've got 7 other men and women that I answer to, so that's something I would have to run by them first.
I would just like to keep in mind, we are expending a lot of funds for housing inmates outside the county and our justice center that we're gonna have to fund, which will be a very large project, multi-million-dollar project. So just keeping all that in mind, that's kind of why I approached Brad about doing something a lot significantly smaller level. I think we could do the $79,000 a year. You know, I think we saved about 25 or 28,000 just disbanding the beer board. You know, we've saved a lot of costs in our budget, and I think we could make that $79,000 up from those savings. But anything more than that, you know, we got a lot of expenses this year, and this is probably the hardest time that DeKalb County's seen in a long time, financially. So just all that, just keep all that in mind as we go forward with any decision on And that's not just radios, that's anything and everything, so.
Well, the radio system is in excess of 20 years old. We got some of these repeaters, MTR 2000s. They were bought with some of the first rounds of Homeland Security money right after 9/11. So that's how old this stuff is, and it's been serviced up until, you know, recently. But they finally said, hey, you know, we can't service it anymore. We can't get it. We can't get the parts. So that's kind of where we're at.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
And my memory, you know, is what it is. Did you come and talk about this first, or somebody come and talk about this first around this time last year to the budget committee?
Yes, ma'am.
And y'all were talking about radios, talked about different things, and then was the discussion at that time for 10? Is that what we had talked about? But there was gonna have to be decisions about who would get the 10 and where it would be most, you know, useful, and then we would just have to build from that.
So when I first discussed it, Beth, I was talking about, you know, the end-of-life service on the MTRs, the current radio system that we've got. And I recommended to all county officials that, or county agencies and department heads, that they start replacing their current radios with digital radios.
Okay.
Now, the only request that I know of that was made was from EMS Director Hoyt Hill, and he requested 10 and got none.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that's where the number
That's what
10, that's where that 10
I
number
have
comes from.
the memories of that from last
Yeah.
year. Okay.
Yeah. You're right, that's correct.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any questions for Brad?
If not, I'd like to invite Director Gray up. He's traveled up from Nashville
Yeah.
to talk to you guys, and if you've got any questions for him, come on up, Jeff. Jeff has been in emergency services way longer than I have. He's been involved in helicopters and been on a paramedic on a truck, and now he's over the TACIT system. So,
Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Commission, and appreciate you giving me the opportunity to just kind of talk to you a little bit about the Tennessee Advanced Communication Network, TACN. It's been around for quite some time. Started out with the PRISM system and Tennessee Highway Patrol, and through multiple years and funding projects, they built it out so that statewide, the mobile coverage, the in-vehicle coverage is pretty good. We received funding this year with a vision of building it out to mobile coverage across 85% of the state. So Brad alluded to those maps. Those maps run by Motorola are extremely conservative. The white space means that it does not meet 95% coverage. So as Brad said, in other counties that we've talked to, as they get out there and actually test this, they find they have coverage. That's not an absence of coverage. It means that Motorola will not guarantee it below 95% coverage. So just an extra, white space always scares people, but you know, testing it proves it. So, so like I said, we received several $100 million to finish out the build out this year, over the next several years. You've got the maps with the current mobile coverage and the projected portable coverage. We are working on adding tower infrastructure to increase the coverage. It's going to be approximately 200 additional towers across the state over the next 5 to 6 years, realistically. Like I said, TACN's been around a very long time. It's built to public safety grade. If you ever hear that's P25, Project 25. All of our sites have generator backup. All of our sites are monitored by Motorola. We also have a network and security operations center that monitors that. Everything is tied together with microwave. So all of the towers are connected via microwave, which is like an internet connection for the tower sites. And we have 4 redundant cores across the state. So in Nashville, we have 2 sites that are redundant, Knoxville, Chattanooga, and Jackson. So if the system fails at any one zone, then it backs up automatically to the next zone, and that, because of the microwave system, the whole system stays up. We test that 4 times a year. The system blinks. It's literally less than a couple of seconds, and the whole thing switches over on the redundant core. So we start talking about an investment, which is what you're talking about in a radio system. The state is making a very large investment for our public safety responders to bolster the state system. One of the big things that we talk about is why are we doing this? It really is under the umbrella of interoperability. meaning that if you talk to your police officers, and we have several here, you're on a separate system that does not talk to the state system. Yet we work scenes on the interstate, manhunts, all kinds of stuff, but you can't talk to each other. So the vision is building up the state system. We would love partners to come on as they can. You're not obligated, but it's to really bolster interoperability so that you can talk to each other when you're out there working together every day or in a big disaster. So interoperability is really our passion, is making sure that not only the state agencies can talk. As part of this project, all state agencies are moving over to TAC, and they had been on disparate systems, but the TWRA, our state parks, TDOT, everybody are moving over to that radio system as we build out the coverage. So it makes the ability for partner agencies to come over much easier and allows us to be much more interoperable as public safety professionals to talk to each other in emergencies. So a couple different things. So we are, with our goal, like I said, to portable coverage, trying to improve coverage along all interstates, major highways, all of our state parks, and county seats. So where we're focusing our towers are in those particular areas, and you should see significant improvement in the coverage. The maps you've got now are existing. We did that intentionally so you could see what you have now. And over the next several years, the intent is that, with those areas, adding towers, you would just see the coverage improve. One specific area that we're looking at, we've already walked the site, is the Corps of Engineers site up there at the dam. The engineers are, the Corps is very excited about coming on the TACN system, and we were very excited to partner with them because it really improves our coverage. So Brad had talked a little bit about maintenance and service, and that's the part that always scares people. When you make an investment this size, the state, we already have a maintenance service contract through Motorola, and we spend several $1 million a year on that. We upgrade all of our software every 2 years across the entire state, so you're always at the latest software level, and all of our hardware is upgraded either at end of life or at intervals, preset intervals. So not only do we have the investment in the capital infrastructure build out, we've got the investment from the legislature to maintain it as we grow it out. So very redundant, very resilient system. And if you choose to come on, that expense is not passed on to the county. So all of these tower sites are going to be maintained by the state, upgraded regularly by the state, and are going to be there. And anything we add additionally, we would cover that as well. So I knew that was a concern. I wanted to make sure that you felt comfortable about that in making an investment in it. And then one last thing, and as Brad said, I've been in public safety for 30 years. I was a paramedic. My last role was at Vanderbilt Life Flight for the last 21 years. And that's actually where I got introduced to TACN. I started a project about 3 years ago with COVID funding so that EMS and hospitals could come on the TACN system as we build up the infrastructure so that you could talk over greater distances. So if you know anything about healthcare, it's getting more expensive. Hospitals having to close services. Many counties are losing their hospitals altogether. So EMS transporters, paramedics, people that are having to transport patients are doing health care over greater distances, sometimes multiple counties. So the TACN radio system allows them to talk. Could be from DeKalb County all the way into Cookeville Regional or all the way into Nashville. So you can get a physician online, talk to the physician as you're transporting. You can also have acute care services ready, waiting for you at the door when the ambulance pulls up. We've had some really good success stories with counties calling before they left their county that they've got a heart attack victim. And by the time they made it, in this particular case was St. Thomas West, the cath lab team was there, standing by. They had cleared all their elective cases, met them at the door, and they were in the cath lab immediately. So that's where my passion for it came, and then this opportunity came up, and I was like, absolutely, I'm signing up. So with that, you do get something free. Under that COVID funding, they were never able to make the deadline. That project, it just kind of fell apart, but the Department of Safety has now adopted that. So with that, all the ambulances and all the hospitals that have an emergency department in the state of Tennessee, the state is funding those radios. So your ambulance radios are funded and your hospital radio is funded. So we're working now with Cookeville Regional. That'll be the first. Putnam County, their PSAP, their Regional Medical Coordination Center, their hospital and EMS will be the first to go live. And we'll be putting all that infrastructure in their ambulances, in their 911 center, and in their hospital. So, and we're going to do that across the state too. So in a concurrent project, running along with the infrastructure build out is the EMS project, but I'm very excited about. So with that, I just wanted to kind of give you a high overview of what TACN is, what we're doing, how we're maintaining it, our commitment to it, and wanted to give you the opportunity to ask any questions that you might have.
Gazing into your crystal ball, is there a possibility the state will decide to fund all sheriff's departments?
I don't know, that's a good question. We've not talked about that. The EMS project just happened to be something that, had existed, was a state project, and so that's how that came to be. So I don't know. As Brad and Matt were talking about, a lot of that, the violent crime funding and other grant sources are out there, and there's probably several others that I'm not aware of. But Camp Pepper says don't speculate, and as you said, I don't have a crystal ball, so.
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of small counties out there in the same shape we're in.
Most of them. And that's one of the things, so, the contribution that the state is making is, especially to distressed and at-risk counties, is making sure that they have a radio system because, DeKalb County is not a distressed county, but everybody's struggling for money. So we want to make sure that the radio infrastructure is there if they do choose to move forward and if there are opportunities for grant funding or other funding to get them on board also. So I don't know of any other projects to answer your question, but, we would certainly continue to look for opportunities like that.
Did I hear you say that ambulance radios were going to be funded?
Yeah, they're going to be purchased on behalf of, state's going to purchase them, and then we're going to transfer the property over to the EMS agency.
Our ambulance folks. The
So-
state's gonna, fit them the tax.
Buy the radio, have it installed, have an antenna, program it, and so it'll be at no cost to you. And the reason for that is because one of the biggest needs we have, in my experience, is that the state of healthcare is in crisis. So that's why the state felt, the legislature felt like that was well worth funding.
And do we know when that's gonna happen for our county?
We just need to coordinate that with the county. So like I said, we're rolling Putnam County out. And the way that's gonna work, just briefly, is we will basically work through Motorola, and the service shops, and I'm not sure who you work with here, would then go out there and do the installs either in their shop or at a county garage or some location, as you can get them in. And so basically, I've already pre-purchased the radios, and they're in the Manchester warehouse. And then we will just work with our Motorola partners to work with the service agencies to get them out there. So like I said, it's concurrent, as quickly as we can do it. We anticipate that's probably going to be a 2-year project.
Thank you.
Now, not a question for you, but is this already added into the 1.2?
No, Brad had already brought this up in our previous meetings. We've already pre-planned to receive these radios. So that's not a part of the 1.2 or 3 or whatever it was plan. And it wasn't even in the 2.3 because in part of the presentation that Brad gave in the beginning, he was talking about which agencies would receive radios. And the only thing that EMS had, even in the larger plan, was to receive portable radios, which is the handhelds. We had already planned to receive the mobiles, and that was a part of both of Brad's plans. And
It's already
So-
factored into it.
yeah, it's already factored into all that. Yep.
We need that. First time I met Jeff in the office, Rick, pass that information on to me, just like you, so I do not put them over.
Okay.
Yeah, we would certainly, the question was, we would certainly make sure that as you are onboarding, if you choose to go this direction and do come under attack, we would make sure that we don't delay and that we would time it so that your ambulance radios are done at the same time the rest of your county radios are done. Probably the same service people doing the work.
And we appreciate the help on that. I don't know every county does, so thank you very much for making that happen for us.
Okay. Any other questions, concerns that I need to cover more in detail?
Any more questions for Director Gray?
All right, thank you. I'm happy to come back any other time that, as you get further along the road, if I need to come back and answer any other questions, I'm happy to do it.
Thank you so much for coming from Nashville on such a rainy, gloomy day to help
Thank
us
you.
out. So we appreciate it very much. Thank you. Brad, did you have anybody else that you wanted to speak far as the. Are you good?
Y'all have any questions for them, as far as, like, we could come up with
Yeah.
your questions, but I know a lot of them are Brad.
Yeah. I guess it'll be appropriate if anybody had a question that you could answer, we'll chime you in. I'll just open up the floor to the commission for discussion.
Do we have the funding?
We don't have funding allocated. I feel comfortable if we did the smaller plan, that was the 1.2 with the $79,000 payment, if 911 would agree to also contribute 79 at the same time for every year, for the 10-year period. I believe that we could scrounge up 79 from the general fund, only given that we've cut back some expenses from other things. And I think that's the only way we would make that work. Now, the first plan of the $346,000 payments, I think that's just not even negotiable. I think that's just way too much, and there's no way we would feasibly be able to do that. And that's my opinion. You all are the funding body, so it's a big decision. But if you're asking for my opinion, I think that we could do the 79,000. We'd have to do a budget amendment, or well, I guess it would all depend on how that goes. Do you still get 12 months without a payment for the 1 point? So that'd be something we could discuss in our budget committee. You know, if we make this commitment now with 911 and they go into contract, we would have to have a MOU or some type of governmental agreement to protect Brad on his end. But I think we could do that, and then the budget committee can decide, you know, how to really allocate those funds, where to pull them from. Like I said, I know we've saved some money by cutting beer board and doing little other things. That money's got to go to something. So I think that could be a part of that.
When is the next 911 meeting?
Our next scheduled meeting is not tomorrow, so we will have to schedule a special meeting
Yeah.
before February time, depending on what you guys do.
So they'll have to make a special call meeting at some time. If we decide to go this route of accepting this offer, they'll have to meet after that to make the deadline for the agreement.
Wasn't there some money available in that opioid abatement
There was.
program?
Yep,
that
we could use some
for
of that
this?
to go toward it.
I think we gotta do something.
We
I
do-
think this is a start.
We do.
I'll make a motion that we approve the second option,
All right,
Of tonight.
and that's the option for the 1.2.
1.2.
And would you like to include in that motion that only if the 911 board also contributes
Yeah, providing 911
79,000,
board is also on board with us.
and that we have a mutual intergovernment agreement?
Yes.
Okay. No, that was a lot, so I'll give you a minute to write that down. So Larry Green's motion is to accept the, okay,
Might want to add one more thing to that, that we update that interlocal agreement, because that will have to be.
well, and that's what I said,
Okay.
an intergovernmental agreement. So Larry's made a motion that we accept the second deal, which in those terms would be the $1.2 million, and we contribute $79,058.50, as long as the 911 board also contributes the $79,058.50, and that we both come to a mutual intergovernmental agreement.
10 years,
Yes, it'll be a 10-year
at least.
lease option for these radios. Would anybody like to second Larry's motion?
I'll second it.
I got a second from Greg Matthews. Is there any discussion?
Before I vote, I'd love to know if we can afford it.
That-
If not, we hope so.
Right. Again, we'll have a 12-month period of where we have no payments. So that'll give us time to get the intergovernmental agreement together and, make sure 911 board agrees with what we're agreeing with. And, it's just something you have to look at your budget. The budget committee will have to pull this together and find that 79,000. Like I said, I'm pretty sure we got 28,000. I'm going off my memory, so very vague, but from the beer board, so you gotta come up with the rest of it, and I think that's doable.
Wasn't there about 200,000 in that opioid abatement?
Yes, we do have some.
So you got that money there too.
So our opioid abatement money, we had, which there was restricted and unrestricted funds, so we could look at those unrestricted funding and see if we can't move some of that toward this project also. That would help get us by. And I know the opioid money is reoccurring, so that would be a good source to maybe take from. But I think we can get $79,000 from somewhere.
Without
Right.
cutting, without,
Well, let's see, we got
And that's-
salaries coming up too, so we've got a lot of different things to look at in this budget year. Salary increases, housing inmates in other counties. So it'll be tough for sure, but it'll just be something that you all will have to, as a funding body, look at and kind of come to an agreement
hard to
with.
make a decision on it, I think.
I can't take public comments right yet, but I will at the end. But yeah, that's just something you have to, an individual decision you have to consider. Yeah. Is there any more discussion before we vote? This would be the time. It is pretty important, so.
But I think and having the money is two different things. I'm just gonna tell you,
I
that's a
know,
hard one.
yeah.
I agree. I do
yeah.
think we've got to move forward with our
Uh-huh.
communication.
Yeah.
We've got to have a plan. I'm not, it's
I-
just,
So, I don't have my last year's budget with me, so what line does all the vehicles and all the stuff that everybody comes up and wants come out of?
Normally, are you talking about new
Capital
vehicles?
project.
Yeah.
capital
Normally
projects.
it comes out of capital projects, yes.
And that money can't go towards,
Well, no, it'll have to be coming out of the general fund because it's a contribution.
right,
So this will come out, you know how 911 in our budget has a contribution line that's set forth to them for their salaries and stuff? We'll just up that contribution line item by $79,058.50 to make up for that payment going to them.
reoccurring overhead.
Right.
so purchase of all the new vehicles and stuff comes out of capital. Where does the maintenance, all that stuff
General.
comes out?
Yep. The same.
So hypothetically, we stop buying, not sheriff's department, but we stop paying for cars for people to drive home and stuff like this. That would free up quite a bit of money. Right now, we're spending a fortune in maintenance and gas and for people to just go home and come to work and,
Well,
we all pay for ours.
I'm not quite sure what your question is here, but
So the purchase of the vehicle comes out of
capital. Okay.
I know it'd have to go, 'cause somewhere, somebody approved all this, but we stopped buying all these cars for elected officials to drive home. And that money that then gets kept and pays for the maintenance and the gas, that would free that up on the personal vehicles that they drive to the house, that's paid for by the county. It may not free up 79,000, but it's gonna free up quite a bit.
So, I'm trying to understand what you're saying. You're saying by stopping purchasing vehicles through capital projects, it prevents of the amount of vehicles we have to maintenance, therefore saving money in maintenance costs.
It would save that much in a lot of stuff.
So, yes, that would. However, we do have to have vehicles, new vehicles, our vehicles wear out sometimes. I don't know if you're talking, I think you
Yeah,
stated something about,
I'm not talking like, let's say the mayor mobile, I think it was referred to
yeah.
at one time. That vehicle, whatever hours, 8 to 5, 9 to 5, whatever your hours are, sitting at the courthouse, that's fine, those are business hours. No offense, I mean, you know, we're driving home, you drive more home and back than, shoot, DeKalb County, I mean, that's a pretty big distance, it would save fuel. Golf, you know, he drives his truck home and back, I mean, he can park at the transfer station, you know, I mean, it would save money. I mean, I ain't talking about Hoyt, because fortunate, everything Hoyt does for us, or not Hoyt, but Donnie, it's all free. So, I mean, I ain't saying he should do all of his, but I mean, Anthony's got to take on drive car. I mean, that could be parked at the fire station, save that much gas. He could take his to wherever. I mean, the rest of them do. It's just, there's some things that we could do to save some money.
Part of the contrary to that, though, is too, if you got a deputy that lives out in Belk, and he drives his personal car
I'm
in,
not talking about deputies. They're considered 24/7. I mean, them guys are actually on call no matter what. I'm talking Matt, Golf.
well, the counter argument to that would be that a lot of these people don't just go to the courthouse or just go to the fire hall or just go to, you know, some days they might be driving from their house to Nashville for meetings, or driving from their house to Cookeville to meetings, or driving to their house or from here to Chattanooga. Therefore, in other words, in my situation, it would make more sense if I had to go to Tullahoma or, you know, somewhere where I'm going to go back through Belk again anyway, instead of driving to the courthouse and then back to my house, to drive to that meeting.
But that's few
Yeah.
and far. I mean, more times than not, we come through Smithville. I mean,
Sometimes.
it's like the road department saying he lets his guys drive the trucks home because there might be a tree limb, you know, after a storm. Well,
Right.
there's more times than not, there's no storm, there's no tree limb, so I know he's a different budget, but, you know, there's just wasted gas. I mean, we just pay for all this hand over fist.
Well, to answer your question, if we stopped buying capital projects, yes, it would save us maintenance money. But then again, on the flip side to that, you also would have a lot of worn-out vehicles that
Understand? And I'm
would
not
probably increase maintenance again because you
saying- And I'm not saying that that's
be having to
the
replace
answer.
transmissions and motors. and
What I am
things.
saying is life, you know, somebody's safety should come before, you know, free gas. I mean, I don't understand.
Okay.
I'm going to move to call the question.
Okay.
second to remove.
Would, let's take a voice vote on this one.
Glenn Merriman,
End in discussion, we're going to vote.
Just a second.
Do that.
you want to do a voice or roll call?
Yeah, voice.
Oh, okay.
A roll call, I mean. I'm sorry.
Someone just asked what she said. We just repeated that, is all it was.
Yeah.
And we just repeated what.
Yeah, I explained that a move to call the question means discussion ends,
Yeah.
and we're going to vote.
Yeah. So, I'm sorry if I said the wrong thing. Roll call, please, clerk.
Glenn Merriman,
Here. You said roll call. Oh, man. Yes.
Daniel Cripps. No. Jeff Barnes,
Yes.
Sabrina Farler,
Yes.
Tony Colwell,
Yes.
Greg Matthews,
Yes.
Beth Pafford,
No.
Larry Green,
Yes,
Tony Luna,
No.
6 yes, 3 no, and we did not do a roll call, so we have 5 absent tonight.
So, we would have to have majority of membership, so that would fail. Does anybody got any other discussion?
What'd you say?
We don't have the majority of membership.
We have the majority of those present. Those that are not here don't
That
count.
don't count.
For any decision, it's always based off membership, not those that are present. So you could think of the empty seats as an abstain or a no. Is there any more discussion?
I'd be more comfortable with a yes if I know the numbers better. That's my only hangup. I think we need it. I love the technology. No doubt we need it. I'm just not comfortable with spending $2 million or $1.5 million.
It's a scary thing because we're in a struggle right now with our finances. So yeah, I
So if we
understand
can have
completely.
some kind of meeting with the budget committee to make us feel more comfortable,
Yeah.
then
I think we're this close to our workshop. I mean, something we could talk about in our workshop. Bring our budgets with us, and we can just spend a little time. That way, we're not keep calling special call meetings and things of that nature. So, I think we just hash it out in our workshop, and if that's something we wanted to do the next Monday night at our county commission meeting, we can do it. And if not, then we can say, this ain't for us right now. We're just not comfortable with it.
And we can do it like past county commissions have done, and we can kick it down the road.
Or we can, I'll ask one time, of the ones that voted, is there anyone that wishes to change their vote? Is everyone comfortable with their vote before we close this meeting?
till I know more about the funding, I'm comfortable with mine.
All right.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Whoa, we gotta have public comments. All right, I'm gonna open the floor to public comments. If anybody would like to, I would need you to come up to the podium, the microphone, state your name and either your address or what district you reside in. You will have 3 minutes to speak, and please wait for me to give the timer.
Thank you. My name is Pam Charles. I live at 330 Willow Drive, Downtown, Tennessee. And I have, for clarification, just a couple of questions.
All right?
The first one being
Well,
is...
we will not have any questions and answers, but we will allow public comments. If
Okay,
you have any
so
questions...
my comment is...
Hold on. If you have any questions, you may meet with a commissioner when the meeting is over, or myself. But
Okay.
your time will start now.
Okay. So I understand, based on this meeting, that we have an archaic 911 radio system. There have been problems with it in the past. The short mountain repeater has failed, among other things. And if our radio system fails, someone could die. That's the basic end of it. Someone could die. And the job of the commission, in my opinion, their number one job is to keep us county residents safe. And I just heard you guys say, some of you say, my life as a county resident was not worth $79,000 a year or $300,000 a year, because that's exactly what you're talking about. If the system fails and you can't get a police officer or the fire department or someone to my house or anyone else in the county to their house, someone could die. Now, I understand we all have to manage a budget. I have to manage a budget. I have to balance my checkbook. I get that. But I think that when you're looking at your line items in the budget, you need to prioritize, and I think the lives of our citizens are worth more than some of the other things that may be in your budget. I yield my time. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you get her name? What was your district that you lived in? 2. District 2.
My husband echoes what I just said.
Is there any more public comments?
Make a motion to adjourn.
All right.
Well, wait a minute.
Wait. Yep. Hold on. All right. So state your name and then either your address or what district that you reside in, and then I will give you 3 minutes to speak. We won't do any questions and answers, but we will indeed take public comments.
Okay. My name is Stephen Charles, District 2.
All right, go ahead.
My comment is, first of all, I appreciate everybody's reluctance to spend my money. I seriously appreciate that. I don't often see that. Unfortunately, I think this money has actually already been spent. We have a 20-year-old communication system. I haven't even had a cell phone that long, and I have to get a new one every 2 years. Come on, we are way behind the power curve. Another thing that I thought of while I was listening to the proposals that nobody mentioned was the repeaters in the vehicles that stretch the communications distance of the handheld radios. Something for you guys to consider is, are those 100% reliant on the vehicle, and it sounded like they were, and what happens and how often does it happen, and who wants to be the first responder to be on the shoulder of the road trying to talk to somebody and get some more help when a truck takes their vehicle with their repeater down the road. I mean, we've all seen that happen. Just something to think about. That sounds like a patch job, and if we're going to spend $1.2 million on a patch job, I really think we should go ahead and figure out a way to spend the $2.3 million and upgrade the system. I had to buy a new cell phone a couple years ago. I didn't like it, but I had to do it. And I think that's where we are as a county right now. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any more public comments? All right, you can do it now, Jeff. All right, we got a motion by Jeff to adjourn and seconded by Colwell. Is there any discussion? All right. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Be safe. Stay warm.